brief discussion with one of the laymen. I mentioned a group of meditations, but also more like general contemplations, including anapanasati. It's buddhanusati, this recollection or contemplation of the Buddha or awakening, qualities of awakening, maranasati, death contemplation, and metta bhavana, the development of loving kindness. So these are not just things to do in a formal practice situation where you say, now I'm going to focus on this. These are the things, the qualities which we're basically inculcating our whole life with, infusing, and also using as ways, as perspectives, in order to basically shift our perspectives and experience things differently. And I added to that Asubha Gamatana, they often called the reflection on the repulsiveness, the unattractiveness, or the non-beautiful, Asubha, the non-beautiful sign, which again is not just something which you do as an exercise, you just to go through the 32 parts or contemplate an organ or visualize things. You can do that, but it's a whole relationship to oneself and the external sense realm, where we're shifting it away from the constant delight and aversion, both of our own body and external sense phenomena, to a much more neutral mode, partly through understanding actually the intrinsic unattractiveness of things which we're usually attracted to. So it involves a skillful use of those contemplations of actually what appeals to us and what disgusts us, and then thinking about that. And so I was very happy this morning when at the end of morning chanting we did this rarely chanted chant, this reflection on the repulsiveness of the four requisites. And it's one which is actually, it's a bit jarring in its language, it's very shocking. It basically points to, has sentences like, none of this alms food is innately disgusting, and having contacted or touching this unclean body. So it sort of seems very, very stark and very, very negative, and looking at things in rather extreme ways. But actually within that, there's just a lot of basic Dhamma. It begins talking about elements, dhatu, yatta pachayang, conditioned, just conditioned. Pawattamanang means literally like rolling on, like the Dhammacakka Pawattana Sutta. This is just elements, dhatu mattamevetang. So it's basically conditioned by elements, just rolling on. So in very scientific terms, these are just elements, stuff, molecules, compounds, atoms, just coming together and separating, just rolling on in the way that things just roll on through the world, if you like. So it's a very, very neutral way of looking at the four requisites, but also one's own body. Then also reflecting on moving towards the more Asubha factor, the fact that there are these things which actually, say like with food, which we are drawn to, and then you swallow it or you chew it, and then actually suddenly you're not drawn to it. The Krubajans, the teachers in Thailand often say, try this, you can't do it in public, but take some delicious food, chew it a few times, and then look at it on your spoon, spit it out onto your spoon. It doesn't take more than a few seconds, a few chews, a bit of contact with saliva for something which was really yummy, really delightful, to be really quite repulsive. And you might actually struggle to then put that back in your mouth. So again, this is like making Asubha fun, basically, and seeing that this is actually really what's going on. There's this trick of the senses, trick of perception, which we can understand. We also often don't think of, in this chant, it talks about how, the four requisites, the robes, the lodgings, they're not intrinsically dirty, but touching this unclean body, that's what basically makes them gross. And so again, it's just a very basic reflection. That's why we wash. It's why you have to wash your robes. You can look here, there's a little bit of brown here, because that's right where it's under against my body, it's where it sweats. In lay life, it was your collar and cuffs. And it's why we do sala cleaning tomorrow. It's why we have to clean the car. It's a lot to do with our use of these things that basically makes them dirty, and we then have to clean them. So it leads to a kind of dispassion, a world weariness, a sense of, yes, all these things which they are nice, we need them, we need beautiful flowers and shrines and stuff, but we're not going to get deluded into thinking that through this beauty, through this intrinsic wonderfulness, that these are the things which are going to somehow enlighten us, or that these are in and of themselves perfect or whole. And so in this chant, you also reflect on qualities like suñño, emptiness. So far from being a simple reflection on say, the unattractive nature of the body as a means of removing lust, which is often presented as Asubha, this takes us right the way through to contemplation of emptiness, when things are elements arising and passing away because of causes and conditions, intrinsically unattractive, prone to decay, deterioration, dirt, prone to bringing on feelings of revulsion, our own body, the external world. Like, no one wants to look at a paving where a fox has done a poop the night before. Yeah, this is basically the world we live in, and there's nothing bad about it, but you're saying, look, this is just what we experience. And in this kind of world, where can we find an essence? Where can we find a self? Where are we going to find satisfaction? So then it's a kind of thing where we begin to shift our perceptions and change the way we relate to everything, internal, external, body and outside world, use of requisites. And so very, very useful, a lot of wisdom just in there. So I just wanted to kind of expand on that, because if you chant this chant, especially at first, it can seem jarring, off-putting, or you can fail to see the many layers with which you can then bring it into your whole daily life. And it shifts the perspectives. And in time, you see how it actually links with anapanasati, death contemplation, and even loving-kindness contemplation. All of these things are very much linked. They're more or less like different sides of an object, different facets. So I'll leave it there. A few reflections on this Asubha Kammatthana chant.